Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and in this video we're going to be unboxing a game, a brand new game called The Elder Scroll Call to Arms. This is the core rules set. It's all about tabletop miniatures, battles in the world of Tamriel, and this comes from Bethesda, obviously, being that it's an Elder Scrolls based IP, and Modiphius Entertainment is behind this one. Now, if you're familiar with Fallout Wasteland Warfare, which I did videos for on my channel years ago, when it originally landed, that game had such a fantastic from the ground up built-in solo play mode. You didn't have to go pick up anything in addition to the core game experience to be able to play solo right out of the box, and that's exactly what you're going to be able to find here in Call to Arms. So I'm really excited to show this to you guys. Let's flip it over to the back of the box and take a look inside. It is the time of the Dragonborn. Battle rages across the forests, plains, and mountains of Skyrim as Imperials and Stormcloaks fight for supremacy. In ancient barrows, the restless dead rise from their sleep. Skeletons and fearsome Draugr jealously guard their treasures from bands of delving adventurers. The Elder Scrolls Call to Arms is an adventure war game set in the world of Tamriel. Gather your heroes and venture into Draugr-haunted tombs and ruins searching for treasure and glory, or fight the civil war as the Stormcloaks and Imperials battle for the future of Skyrim. This core rules set contains everything you need for exciting solo and cooperative delves, or two-player battles with AI adversaries hindering both players. This is backed up by an extensive online content at their website, allowing you to take the game even further and conquer Skyrim for your faction. Begin your adventures in Tamriel with this essential box set containing the full rules of the Elder Scroll Call to Arms, plus dice, cards, and tokens. The very first thing you're going to see when you open up the box is this book called Escape from Helgen. This is all about the first steps in the world of Tamriel, and you really need to dive into this if you haven't played, especially Fallout Wasteland Warfare. Now, again, there will be some new things here specific to the Elder Scrolls. You're going to want to go through this tutorial, regardless of your experience, just to ensure you capture all of the rules necessary to move into the quests behind this particular book. So first off, this book is going to have you finding your feet, talking about character cards and upgrade slots, health, stamina, and magicka. It's going to move you through how to actually play the game itself, talking about measuring, movement, sprinting, searching, and then straight into a tutorial about exploration. It's going to show you things you're going to need, things you'll need to note, and how to measure them out and place them using the key below. Next, you'll learn a lot about vital statistics, your attributes and skills, how to make skill tests, as well as making an attack. Then you'll move into tutorial number 2, where you'll do some target practice. Of course, this is really going to help hone your skills while attacking and learn about rules of engagement and effect dice. You'll also learn a lot about damage and armor, and then head into tutorial number 3 for escaping the dungeon, hopefully alive. Once you've gone through these 3 tutorials, you'll have gone through the entirety of this tutorial booklet, and at the very back you'll see a quick reference, which will give you some nice overviews for status and effects, phases of the game, whether it be setup, action, or end phase, as well as descriptions on some key words. As I mentioned, the next book in line is the quest book. I'm not going to go through every single page of this book. I'll flip it over to show you guys. There's 40 pages inside of this book. Let's go through a couple of the pages and start it out. I'll describe a few things as we go. So the biggest thing is when you're setting forth after you've done the tutorial, you've got different ways to play the game. You can play in battle mode right here. Of course, you have to decide based on the number of players what you're doing. So if you're playing battle mode, it's 2 or more parties fighting over objectives and treasure in the wilds and dungeons of Tamriel. You turn to page 10 to deal with that. If you want to do the delve mode, players fight alone or cooperatively against adversaries that will activate an attack according to their own behavior sequence. So again, that's where that AI comes from. And again, they're building off what they built with Fallout Wasteland Warfare, which was a fantastic solo mode built into a miniatures game. And honestly, with this one, I see this being in the same vein, if not better. So I definitely advise you to check this out, as I have Fallout Wasteland Warfare and thoroughly enjoy it. Moving right along, of course, you got to do all these other steps, like choosing your parties, your scenario, and your setup. But if you want to learn more about Delve mode, you dive right to 26. So for now, I'll show you a couple pages along the way, and these really are about the startup and the setup and the quests, deploying your party, and all that kind of stuff. In the victory conditions of the game, you'll see there's some actual battle mode specific scenarios. There's a number of these. I believe there's 5 or more of them. And then after about the 5th scenario, which happens to end just at the very tail end before we get to the solo area for the Delve, we have the Blood on the Snow campaign. So this campaign is interesting to note because of the fact you can see the campaign flow and structure right down here. So depending on how scenario 1 pans out, whether the Imperials win or Stormcloaks win, it'll either go to scenario 2 or 3, and it breaks out differently. So the campaign's going to change. This is something that's worth noting. Going along here to 26, this is where the Delve begins. This is where you're going to want to come if you're playing this game solo. So it's going to have adversary forces talked about here, the Delve mode turn sequence, the victory conditions, and how the random scenarios play out. The first scenario here is called Hold the Gates. It's a round limit of special. It's an environment of any, and they even have an example of some of the maps. Now again, with this particular game, there's going to be playmats that will come over time. There'll be sets very similar to Fallout Wasteland Warfare, where they had the red rocket, and they also came with playmats and stuff like that. You'll be able to use those as your backdrop when playing this game. You've got your setup here all broken out. You got your victory conditions here, how many VP you'll gain based on how well you do. And you've got your requirement for VPs for victory up top here. And you'll see a number of different scenarios you can play. This one's called the Lair of the Beast. This one's called the Standing Stone. This one here is Realm of the Dead. You have the Golden Claw for scenario number 5, Master of the Sanctum. And at the very, very back, you have the Bleak Falls Barrow Adventure. The next book is a very important one. It's the rule book itself. Let's definitely take a look at this one. There's 101 pages inside of this book, and I'll go ahead and just give you a quick flip through and look at what it seems like inside of the book, because if you're looking to play this game, this is the type of rule book and the type of format that they've used throughout. It's very similar to the quest book that we just looked at. And I do realize I'm not showing you the entirety of the page. That's mainly because of the fact that this particular book is so brand new, it wants to close almost instantly. So holding it open with just one hand here is quite tough. But I will give you a breakdown of the contents inside. So you'll find an introduction section, the game round section, action section, damage, the event phase, morale, status effects, spells, dragon shouts, terrain, adversaries, special rules, races of Tamriel, gathering the party, and the appendices. The next thing you'll find inside the box are 2 punch boards full of tokens. These are going to denote things like wounds and status conditions and gold, all that kind of stuff you'll find here. They're very nice, very high quality, and again, similar to Fallout Wasteland Warfare, very nice looking and true to the IP. You could even see the quest markers, for instance, are bang on. You'll also find inside the box some baggies, which are always great for organization. Then we've got some dice. Let's show you these up close. Here's an up close look at the dice inside the game. We've got the 3 green dice, 3 yellow, 3 red, and 3 black. And then down the bottom, that white die. Again, if you've played Fallout Wasteland Warfare, the way these dice appear in terms of their iconography, besides the iconography that's specific to Skyrim, is very much like Fallout Wasteland Warfare in terms of the dice structure, especially this die right here. Now let's check out some of the cards inside the game. These are mini cards for the events. We also have some treasure cards, some quest cards, and some more events at the very back. So let's flip them over and take a look. Feel free to go ahead and pause the screen if you'd like to read these different cards. These ones are obviously the quest cards. Now we're moving into the treasure cards. This takes us back to some event cards, and it appears that I might have been incorrect with the original cards that had this quest icon up top, that some of these can be events as well, as we saw when we were looking at the backs of the cards. The next cards we're going to take a look at are the adversary cards. We'll flip them over so you can see the skeleton to start it off. There are a number of each of them. And right back to the skeleton. Here are some specific to the Stormcloak soldiers, and these ones are actually double-sided. There's differences between the two sides. You'll notice there's an attitude change between them as well. Here are the response matrix for the monsters. You'll see that it mentions might, shadow, and sorcery, and along the bottom it talks about the target priority for each of these different cards. So monsters here, flipping this over to the opposite side, there's also a breakdown of faction special rules and party composition, as well as some flavor text there that's important for each of them. So this one is the beasts, flipping it over to the opposite side. The Draugr, the Stormcloaks, the Imperial Legion, the Adventurers, and this final card, I'm not too sure what it is, but it could potentially be a cover card. Now let's check out the spell deck inside this box. We have things like Flames, Frostbite, Fire Rune, Fire Bolt, Frost Rune, Ice Spike, Lightning Bolt, Lightning Ruin, Lesser Ward, Oak Flesh. So many different spells to use. All the way down to one of my favorites, lockpicking. These next cards are considered upgrade items. This next set of cards are upgrade armor cards. Hide armor, fur armor, leather armor, a lot of these types of cards you're going to be very familiar if you've played Skyrim before. You've probably hoarded some of these items into a chest somewhere in one of your houses. Some upgraded ranged cards. These ones are obviously specific to bows. Ooh, and even a throwing knife. These cards are called upgrade weapon cards. Got some daggers in there, some iron swords, some war axes, maces, great swords, battle axes, steel daggers. These are more weapons that I'm sure everyone has hoarded away in Skyrim over the years. Steel mace, steel battle axes. Ooh, a double-handed weapon there. The Warhammer and the Imperial Sword. The last deck of cards actually has some more events inside of it hiding. Including a whole bunch more quests to talk about. Next we have some traps, like a bear trap for instance, a battering ram trap, a bone alarm trap, a dart trap, these do not sound good, explosive gas, and flamethrower trap. All these traps I've come across while playing Skyrim. 2 effect cards. They look like this: Disease and Potion of Strength. These cards are considered master treasure cards. These are probably going to be pretty impressive. Yes, indeed. These are some nice looking weapons. Let's check out these treasure cards. The Ancient Nord War Axe. Silver Sword. Fine Dwarven Sword. Ancient Nord Bow. There's a lot of really good weapons in this particular box. Quite a bit more item cards and combinations of different upgrades than I sure expected to find in this core experience. And it wouldn't be Skyrim without some shout cards. We've got 4 of them. One here is called Elemental Fury, Frost Breath, Throw Voice, and Unrelenting Force. Last but certainly not least, inside of the box, we've got ourselves what appear to be the character boards for the Dragonborn here. We've got quick slots on the side, hand slots down below, body slot down here, stats along the side. You'll be able to slot in everything that you gain through this game. You got your stats across the bottom here, and it even talks about perks, keywords, and special abilities down through the middle. Now, if I flip this over to the opposite side, there might be some changes. It appears that the actual card itself changes color, and that is likely due to maybe using that same unit in a different capacity, maybe a different mode of play. I'll learn more about that later on. We've got Roloff, the Warrior of the Resistance, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly and not butchering it. We have this Stormcloak Commander, an Imperial Mage, and Hadvar. And that's going to wrap up the unboxing for the core rules set for the Elder Scrolls Call to Arms from Modiphius Entertainment. I really hope this helps you make an informed decision on this particular set. And if you're interested in the system and the AI behind this particular game and you want to learn more about the tutorial, I definitely have a Fallout Wasteland Warfare tutorial video on my channel that follows a similar structure and feel to what's here in Call to Arms. Now, there will be differences between the 2 IPs, but it is from Modiphius in both cases, so checking out some content on Wasteland Warfare is a decent idea from a solo capacity in terms of whether or not you're going to like Call to Arms. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.